Okay, so now that we've basically built our base for the infrastructure of our country, looking at the three branches of government, so we looked at the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches. Now we get to the next level of structure, which has to do with political parties and interest groups. And these are the primary sources of that derive or that drive influence and direction within the government, and also dictate the laws and policies that are relevant to all of us. So in this chapter, you'll learn about how interest groups and political parties are formed. This is, and also you learn primarily what's most important about the ideas of what it means to be Democratic slash liberal or Republican slash conservative. But also in this chapter, you learn about the wide spectrum within both. So within both political parties, from the far left liberal to the far right conservative, both political parties, if you're a liberal, for example, the liberal side runs from very, very liberal to liberal slash conservative, right? Moderately conservative liberals. And within that, then you have those that are in the middle. So across that wide spectrum, there are lots of different ideas and attitudes about things that liberals hold dear and important. And the same applies for the conservatives, right? So the Conservative Party goes from very liberal side of conservatism to the very conservative side of conservatism. And then what those philosophies mean across the spectrum is very important. Ideally, you want somewhere in the middle, right? There should be a balance struck between both sides. Yes, there are certain things that are associated with each side of each political party, but sometimes we have to also remember that political parties are really just like organizations or entities that serve an interest to drive a political philosophy about how they think the country should be run. And sometimes we accord too much, I think, too much power to them and cede too much of our power to them. And we just vote for policies and for individuals based on whether they're liberal or conservative or Democrat or Republican. And I would say to you this, that there are good and bad on both sides, and that you have to be able to sort of figure out for yourself, who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and have the courage to vote for people who represent your values and interests, no matter who they are. I think that if we stop focusing so much on the political parties themselves and focus more on the individuals who are running, we might do a better job. Um, it's also, again, part of the money chase as well, because in order to run for office, for any of these offices in Congress or any other branch that requires an election, you need a lot of money. And so the political parties are usually the catalyst for generating funds to allow individuals on both political parties to be able to operate. And to certain candidates who want to run or stay in office. I will tell you that in the more modern context, that a lot of individuals are deciding to opt to be independents. They're so frustrated with the political parties in general because right now, for example, the parties basically are earning about an F minus in their ability to do any legislative work within Congress. And this is partially because of the fact that when I say all the time that a lot of times the people who run political parties are more concerned with money than they are the people. And anytime you put money ahead of the people, then you've got a problem. And I think that's one of the struggles we have in our country today is the fact that money is more important than people. And the idea that these political parties get private donations from individuals who have their own personal interests at heart pushes candidates to be able to push legislation to serve their interest. And since a lot of us don't bother to vote, that allows for it to become even more entrenched. Uh, we'll learn about the role of political parties, we'll learn about party organization, how it's structuralized, how they may go about their decision-making process from the beginning of decision-making through the end process of the policies that come through them, what they look like today, what they look like historically. Uh, and then you'll learn about interest groups. There are thousands and thousands of different interest groups that look out for various issues that we as human beings find important, whether it be environmental issues, social issues, economic issues. There are all types of different interest groups out there, and you're going to learn about them, and you're going to learn about what James Madison said about them. Was he concerned about them, or did he think they were a good idea? Uh, and you'll learn about the politics of interest groups as well. Uh, and I think you'll find it to be interesting. It's a very sort of enlightening chapter about the role of political parties and what they do and how they do what they do, as well as interest groups. So I hope you'll enjoy. Next.